So in the last video, I modified the button so that we could have two behaviors in the same component. So we've got two states now down here, dynamic width and fixed width. And the way we did that was using a Boolean property up here. While that's fine, it's not maybe the best way to do it, especially if you, like, Booleans only support two values, true and false. Down the track we might have different behaviors that we want to add, or often it's more expressive if you can give these properties a specific name rather than just true and false. So I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to create a thing called an enum. So enums are it's a term for enumeration. So essentially it's you give a property a list of values that it can have. So rather than true and false, we could have, or we actually could make an enum that had the values true and false, but in this case we're going to create an enum, maybe we'll call it button width, and we'll give it two values. So the first case for this is fixed width, actually just say fixed, and case dynamic. So they're the two possible values for a button width in our current design. We might add more later, but right now we have just those two. So let's create a property using that enum. So button width. Okay, so we now have a button width property, and it's using these two values, right? So when you want to set an enum, what you can do is you just hit dot, and then you get the two values here. So it's either fixed or dynamic. I don't know, maybe I'll put dynamic as the default. If you don't set that, it'll pick the first one as the default. Okay, cool. So now all we need to do is actually change the state machine so that rather than using this fixed width Boolean, it'll use this button width property instead. One thing I often do is when I'm doing something like this, I'll comment out a line of code like this. So if I hit command /, then it'll highlight where all the errors are. And right here, there's an error in this transition. And here, if I delete that, I'll say root dot button width dot. So if we want to go from dynamic to fixed, we want that to be is fixed. And actually, I'm not sure if we should auto reverse that. Maybe I think I'll do it explicitly instead. So on the way back, we want to go to dynamic width when root dot button width dot is dynamic. Okay, and that way, like, we've got really explicit conditions for stuff. So we can delete that one that we had before. And if we head over to, if you click on these things down here, these errors, it'll take you to the bit of code where there's a problem. And here we were using that Boolean value, and we need to update this to use button width. And in this case here, we want it to be dynamic, and this other case, we want button width to be fixed. Okay, so now we've got the same behavior, but rather than having a true and a false here, we have a more explicit description of what we're doing.